Good morning, it's good to see you. So before I start anything, let me ask you guys a question. How did you like having the exhibit hall for coffee and snacks in the morning? Perfect. Everybody hug a sponsor? Any sponsor who doesn't feel unloved right now? Let us know. We'll take care of that later. So thank you for being here. Welcome back. I have a couple videos that I'm going to play, gold sponsor videos, and then we're going to dive right into the AFDR data. So next, I'd like to invite Tim Courtney, VP of Franchise Development for PureClean and 2023 FLDC Conference Chairman, to come up to the stage with me, and we're going to present the results of the annual Franchise Development Report together.
Hey, you.
Hey, boss. What's
How are you? Isn't this a great event? And I tell you, I want to thank you again. I was the most fun I ever had hosting this. That's
good. Okay, so first of all, before we get started, we wanted to give you some framework into the AFDR results that we're going to present today. So in full disclosure, we did not have the number of AFDR survey submissions that A, would have liked, and B, we would normally have had. So what we've done is we've decided not to show you some of the data that we would normally show you because of the lack of responses in it. But we do have a presentation of points that have relevant data that are trend-worthy, important for you to take note of for your franchise development planning for 2026, as well as some new information to share with you that will be fun. And then we are still going to talk about the mystery shop results, not the results, but the observations and recommendations as we get to the end of it.
Did I win?
What do you think? We'll see. Tonight, 5 o'clock. Okay, so here we go. 50% of respondents had established their sales goals. So.
Yeah, no, it's 52% have not established their sales goals yet. 48% have before this thing. Now, how many people have taken the survey, actually? Okay, it's very, again, when Diane said that we didn't get the number of respondents, and I just really, you guys come to this conference. I've been coming to this conference for a long time. This data helps us budget for the coming year. The data that we're going to show you helps drive the goals that we're going to either bring to our boards or our presidents or whatever it is to say, this is what we're going to do. So please, going forward, let's try and get this survey done so we can deliver the metrics that you guys need to make these decisions. So those that haven't planned their goals yet, what's happening? Next slide.
It is.
Yes. So they are planning to establish goals. And look, October, right here, 46% of you are planning to do your goals. November, 29%, and obviously 23% December. So this is why this conference is very important for the budgeting process come franchise development time.
Yeah, and I think if you haven't already met all of our sponsors, it's a great time to do that before you leave. Take out your phone, grab your mobile app, connect with somebody you haven't met, and set up a time to meet before you go, because you never know, the one that you're going to need might be the one that you didn't talk with. So the 10-year trends on budgets, overall budgets are basically flat from last year. And, the good news, I think, is we've seen budgets steadily increase over the last 10 years with just a leveling off in the last couple years.
Right, and I think, again, these budgets are really based on the pure advertising dollars. These really don't include salaries, benefits, and all the, all-in numbers on your franchise development team. So these budget numbers, that's why they're, in these lower amounts, are certainly the pure advertising spend on what you're doing to attract new franchise candidates.
Right, and the data that we're going to show you following this is with representative to the budgets, leads, and deals generated. So on this chart, you'll see marketing initiatives. We've got budget allocation, deals generated, and leads generated. And so what we see is that everything's kind of very similar in their leads and deals generated based against the budget that's spent, although referrals always generates more deals than anything else. And then Tim, you had an observation on this too.
Yeah, I mean, so the digital spend is starting to increase, and that is a big bucket. What is really in the digital spend? And we're also starting to see some other outliers here as we go to the next slide. I think we start getting into a little more detail. So the best is the percent of spend versus the highest closed lead ratio or effectiveness, right? Digital advertising, 29% of your budget spend, those leads are closing at a 20% clip, so 20% effectiveness. Obviously, referrals, they're the highest. The referrals are the best thing that we can get from our franchise owners out there. If you don't have a good referral program, I'm sure you could talk to a number of franchise executives in this room, and they can help, including myself. So you can shoot me an email.
Or happy franchisees.
I'm sorry?
Or happy franchisees.
Or happy franchisees. Then we're also showing here brokers, 20% of the budget. We're going to get more into brokers later. 16% effectiveness, whereas now your franchise development website, we're starting to see this increase. And we looked at the trends, and this is actually now 22% effectiveness, 22% close ratio. Are they starting to become a little more effective?
Well, let me ask you a question. Let's ask all of you a question. How many people in this room see your franchise development website as a due diligence piece or a lead generator? Because we're having a conversation here about whether or not a franchise development website really is the initial lead generator. The marketer over here says your franchise development website should not be included as a lead generation tool because they find out about your brand somewhere else. And there's something else out there that causes a prospect to seek out more information about your brand, therefore leading to your franchise development website. The salesperson, on the other hand, says that's not right. A franchise development website is a lead generator. So let's ask you, how many people in this room think that the initial lead is generated somewhere else besides the franchise development website? Let's see a show of hands. Ooh.
Joe, you surprised me.
How many people say a franchise development website is a lead generator? You don't get to count twice.
But I think we dove a little deeper into the data, which almost kind of clarifies what you're saying. So let's go to the next slide. In that digital advertising bucket, I said was a big bucket, right? So you see on this slide, this is everything that's in that digital bucket. From AI, who's starting to see leads from ChatGPT? Anybody? Anybody? Yeah, we're getting them. But we also see on here PPC and SEO. And what do those do, Diane?
Generate leads.
To where?
Your franchise development website.
Oh, that's all. Chicken or the egg, right? Chicken or the egg.
All right, so I think it's the bottom line on this is it comes back to how are you accounting for your leads? Where are your lead sources coming from? And it's important to note all of that information so that you can see how effective your recruitment program really is.
I love this slide. So this is now other successful recruitment programs. Now we're starting to see what we call what?
What's old is new.
What's old is new, or good old-fashioned franchise development, or good old-fashioned fran dev. Direct marketing to candidates, either direct mail is starting to make a comeback. And these numbers really have spiked almost over 50%, most of them. But here's what I like, custom local events. Anybody trying that? I am, and I tell you what, they are coming back, and we were very successful at doing in-market meetings.
Well, and I think it plays to consumer behavior, right? We're hearing on our marketing sides of the business and the operations sides that people like that personal touch, the interconnection. They like that you're there with them. Those same philosophies apply to franchise development. And I think that we're seeing the results of that in this particular slide because, as Tim said, these popped up in last year, and the amount of people using them has basically doubled since last year. So I think that as you're looking at your recruitment programs for 2026, what you might want to do is go back and look at the things that you've done in like 5 years ago or prior to that and see if there's something that might be relevant or appropriate for your program.
Okay.
Speaking
Why
of
are we showing this again? Since 2021, this conference has been asking who is tracking cost per lead and cost per sale. And ironically, it's always the same number. Half this room tracks cost and half this room doesn't.
That's right.
Why?
Why not?
I don't know. Who here tracks cost per lead and cost per acquisition? All right.
Right.
If you're not raising your hand, then please talk to someone who had their hand up and how you could apply this into your budgeting process and how you can manage leads. Remember, we're feeding success and starving failure.
There you go. And I think this is the slide that you need to pay attention to if you're not understanding what is and isn't working as applied to what you're spending. Because if you're not tracking your cost per acquisitions, then you're not going to know how your recruitment programs are going. So here comes the slide you've all been waiting for. Get your phones out, I see them going up. Cost per lead and cost per sale.
So as we can see, the trend has certainly been rising up, right? Inflationary costs have hit the lead market. We've known this. We've seen certain upticks in cost per lead, cost per sale. But I think, though, what's happening here, too, is the hunt for quality, right? I think we're all on the hunt to find those quality leads, and those leads sometimes come at a little bit of a premium.
Yeah, they do. Well, and I think the other piece of it is, if you're getting really smart and really accurate about how you're doing your lead generation programs, and you're reaching your target audience with your messaging, sometimes it costs a little bit more to get to that person, but if you've got a good lead and it moves forward and you close a deal, then it's money well spent. And this chart shows our ratios.
Right, so this is the sales funnel, and we're back to some pretty normal, I think, close ratios. First off, this is where I think there's also this nomenclature in franchising where nobody counts every lead, right? So this 2.0 close ratio is based on every lead that comes into your funnel, regardless if it's junk, garbage, or you didn't make a connection. And I think sometimes we fail to really measure those because we only consider the people that we talk to as true leads, which would really be the qualified leads. So if you're looking at this and you're saying, all right, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, you have to look at every lead that comes into your system. That's the top line. Then as let's call it kept appointments or kept bookings or anything that is a connection, that could be the qualified leads. And then we go down the line into applications and, of course, discovery days close ratios. So these are pretty consistent to what we've had in the past.
Yeah, but the one thing that we did find this year, which we thought was really interesting, was average time to deal.
Yes.
We're reporting 24 weeks, which is 203 days, lead to close.
Yes. So this is a good metric. We talked about this in the CDO Summit. For those that were in there, we're talking about why do you measure time to deal? And I know Josh Wall had a great explanation. I don't know where Josh is out there. Raise your hand. He had a great, how he measures, and how they can plan and do development. I look at it too, it could be a lagging indicator of what the economy is doing. At PureClean, we've seen my time to deal go from 100 days now to about 120 days. So we're starting to see a little indecision. Has anybody seen an increase in the time it's taken to get deals done this year? Raise your hand. Right. So it's been a little bit of indecisiveness out there, and that's why I thought this was important to see that I think we're all kind of in the same boat.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things, if you're trying to figure out how you can get that back from 24 weeks to that 20-week window, what you might want to consider moving into 2026 is front-loading your budget so that you're generating more leads at the beginning of the year to get them in the door and get the conversations going so that you don't have a bunch of half-done leads hanging at the end of the year next year, especially if you're in a business where you have a short window from deal close to actual opening, because sometimes those deals that come in or those openings that come in the last month can make or break your year. So anyway, we wanted to share that with you and make you aware that this is happening.
Wow. This was an important question. When we were adding some questions, I said, can we ask the room who's using a CRM? Because I was just at another conference, I think it was a broker conference, and we sat around the table and they said, what is the most important tool you need in franchise development? And around the table, everybody said, you need a CRM. So congratulations to everybody who's using a CRM. Now, the 3% that aren't, there's a lot of partners here, and there's a lot out there, but you really should be using a CRM to manage your sales process.
Absolutely. So next up is the broker data. We started by asking, do you use brokers? And 52% of respondents said they do use brokers. So the data that you're going to see in this section is all based on franchisors who use brokers. And we started with, in the past 12 months, have your broker applications produce sales, which 70% is a pretty good number, I think.
Absolutely. And then as we go digger into the data, like what investment type or what investment level are using the brokers? And you see right there the sweet spot at 100,000 to 250,000. And this next slide is actually going to kind of solidify that, because most of the brands using brokers are in the home services section, right? So either brick and mortar service or even van-related services or home services. Primarily, those are the brands using brokers that answered the survey.
Absolutely. And then what we did was this whole concept of, are you looking at all your data so that you can measure your success rate accurately? We asked the question, what broker metrics are you tracking in your lead generation program? And so we're kind of in the middle on, leads to close is great, but I think there are some metrics in the middle that are really important. Territory checks to close, application to close, and discovery day to close.
Right. We talk about tracking mid-funnel metrics all the time, right? You really need to, as a development person, figure out when people are entering your process and where they're exiting in your process. So if you're really managing your funnel this deeply, you'll find that you can either fix things, correct things, and move along.
Right. And this group also reported a 16% close rate with brokers, which when you go back to the budget and you see that franchisors were applying 16% of their overall recruitment budget to brokers, it kind of evens out, right? You can see where you could build a case that, maybe you'd like it to be a bigger number, but it's also really
right. And listen, I'm always in the opinion of, if you're going to be utilizing the broker networks, what percent of your deals do you want to come from the broker network? Some people, like when I got to PureClean, it was like 90% of the deals were coming from brokers. So that we knew that we needed to kind of course correct. We're happy, like our sweet spot is anywhere from 15 to 20% of our deals coming from the broker network. So that's where you kind of really need to decide and weigh, what you're doing in-house versus what you're recruiting. And believe me, it's based on, like, there are some brands that just all they work with is brokers, and that's how they're building their brand. But there are some mature brands, like Puro's been around a while. We kind of like it in the 15 to 20% range.
And I think the point on this is, if you're going to measure your budget, right, look for lead generation initiatives that balance out with the amount of money that you apply to them. So our next section is franchisors exceeding goals. We asked our survey respondents how many are exceeding their goals for this year, and that number was 30%. So not a huge number, but there are still people out there exceeding their goals. We said, and we asked this question in a couple different ways to look at goals versus accomplishments, right? Higher, lower, and then brought them back together for the purposes of this report. But basically, their budgets are a little bit higher or the same, and it's kind of, the data point on here that I find most interesting is 71% of the people who had lower goals, no, those are lower goals, sales exceeding target, 71%. So that's pretty good, but I think that there's a place in there for relevant goals, accomplished goals, or achievable goals versus reaching for the stars and then saying, oh, we didn't quite hit them.
Correct.
And then
those franchisors that are exceeding goals, we showed you the cost per lead and the cost per acquisition. Those franchisors that are exceeding goals, their cost per lead is relatively flat to what we just showed you, slightly less. And the cost per deal has gone down to about $13,300. Of course, they're doing more deals, so hopefully then that's going to drive their cost per acquisition down.
Right. And so now we're going to introduce a new section of the survey, which is AI and large language models.
Can you say that fast?
No. But I'm going to let you take these slides because you are the AI man.
Yeah, well, not really, but okay. But anyway, of the brands, so the question was asked, what percent of the brands are using AI? 52% said yes, 48%, so basically 50-50. What are you using it for, or what's the holdback? So various options here, but obviously people are saying that it's a high implementation cost of using some sort of AI, or they don't have the skilled personnel to use it. I think what we're seeing is, there are early adapters everywhere, and there are, I think every organization is really just trying to figure out is how they can make it work businessly and securely, I think is what a lot of people have. The confidence level of leaders using AI, 56% somewhat confident, 28% very confident. There's a few 6% curmudgeons out there. Talk to some young kids, and they'll help you. What are they doing with the benefits? Well, and where are the benefits? So AI chatbots, I think that's big. I think we've seen an explosion there in AI schedulers, especially in franchise development. We've seen a lot of email personalization and stuff. We're actually starting to now see it on the call center side with just AI call center people, that they're not even a real person. They have the voice of a human, but they're AI driven. And those are really becoming somewhat really smart and in. So
this is baseline information. We'll continue to build upon this as we go with the surveys to learn more about what franchisors are doing with these programs in their businesses. We wanted to let you know that we're going to be uploading the final slides from this presentation momentarily. And when you receive your post-conference email with the link to the final presentations, we'll be including the top line report for the 2026 AFDR. So we've got that coming your way.
My favorite report, by the way.
I know. All right, so let's talk about mystery shopping. Let's thank our shoppers. We have Adam Red, an independent franchise recruitment marketing person who did our website mystery shop, and Service Score did our telephone mystery shops. So the results are, on the online form submission, so this is the shopper goes to your website, they submit online as they are a qualified candidate, and then you call back, go through the process, and they measure how your performance is with a live or prospect. The interesting thing on this is 44% called to follow up on the lead submission, which it was 55% last year, so we're not quite as effective as we were in the past, and we've got some opportunity for growth there. 60% followed up with a text, But here's the important one, I think, or one of the most important points. 4% of the time, the shopper made an appointment to talk with your franchise development executive, and they didn't show up.
Is that a tech stack problem?
Might be. So the recommendation on that is check your tech. Does your lead form work properly? Is your calendar scheduler working properly? You know, you have a sync problem with your CRM system. It's great if you have one, but if it's not working properly, it's not really helping you.
Correct. I mean, you know, and it could also be human error, right? Your development director or something was going on vacation, forgot to block it off on his calendar. AI scheduler just drops it in a calendar. Yep. No one's paying attention to it, though, therefore a no-show.
So who's our shopper? Ready? Mario Jordan. I knew you were going to do that.
How do you spell that? Okay.
J-O-R. Okay.
Well, I'm sure I got Wally and Tanashay out there. They're already in Franken looking for it.
So let's talk about the mystery shop criteria, because a couple years ago we told you that our advisory board formed a committee. They took on a project. They looked at the criteria for the AFDR submissions, and then there was a separate committee that did an overview or an overhaul of sorts of the mystery shopping program. We had gotten really deep and really involved, and they went back and looked at the things that really matter. So we're going to look at, we're shopping your website based on what's important to a franchise prospect, franchisee testimonial videos, qualifications, is the process easy to move through, investment rate, do you have FDD financials in there, and what are the territories available, as well as how well your inquiry form works.
Did I win?
I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. So anyway, 65% of the brands didn't have a franchisee testimonial video on there. If you look back to what we looked at earlier today, referrals work, right? Referrals work, happy franchisees sell more deals.
Yes.
And then, you know, the recommendation, use the tools in your toolbox. If you've got good information about your brand, if you've got franchisees who are speaking highly on the brand, if you have franchisee surveys, if you conduct surveys in your brand and you're getting some positive results and accolades, use them. Use them to your advantage.
Awards, show them off.
Right. Use the tools in your toolbox, review your website, and then make sure you go back and just be specific about certain things, data, but territories available, and all of the information that a prospect would want. And if you have any questions and you're looking for some expert opinions, we have plenty in the audience. We've got a lot of people on the supplier side who are here, who build websites and help you get your brand where it needs to go. So we did this thing. We have another debate going on. It's called, should we put a phone number on our website? And what we decided to do is we're showing you some data because we are using the direct call information. We're continuing to do that shop for information for our use, to look at how programs work or don't work. So 55% of the brands had a phone number on their website. The shopper gets their phone number, they call, they go through the same process with a direct call. 34% answered the phone when they called. I should also tell you that we use this data from this segment of the shop as kind of a tiebreaker for the Star Awards, which means speaking to and responding. That's how we got to Star Awards. Therese founded that 20 years ago. But here's the thing. Even if somebody could get your phone number and called in, 66% didn't answer the phone. Which
is why I don't have a phone number on my website.
Point well taken. So anyway, we have this direct call information too. You'll get this data. But Thank you again to our mystery shoppers, Adam and Service Score. Thanks to all of you. We're going to announce the winner of the Star Awards tonight at the awards celebration and dinner. We also have some innovation awards to give out to different brands. We'll be back in this foyer at 5 o'clock and then in here for dinner at 5:30.
That sounds like fun.
It always is. Please join me in thanking Tim for helping me present this data.
Diane, everybody.
You could go.
Give it up for Diane. Come on.